Everyone, I am. Here we go. Why are we there? Everyone, I want to introduce Ben Allen, architect, on staff here, as well as several other roles he does in his life. Ben might be able to tell us a little bit about that. So, I'm making a Teams call of this on the Teams General, so you can look back over this. I asked Ben to come in here to talk to us about AI. I wanted to bring AI in and not make it invisible. So for most of the course, it's illegal to use, and I've absolutely specifically, in a targeted way, asked you to produce one AI drawing for this assignment 2, and I'm personally hoping I can increase that for assignment 3, and I'll talk with Sarah about that. And Sarah said, make sure if you're doing that, everyone needs to record down what prompts they put in. So I want to have this as a conversation with Ben. This is so clever. So I asked Ben to come in so that we've had a bit of a public conversation about it and what programs like to try out. And how many people in the room have already had a go at messing around with AI image making? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish. And do you want to just shout out what did you use?
Basically DALL-E, and there's another one that we use on Discord, actually, Midjourney. Yes,
Midjourney.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's it from me, other than it's recorded. Ben, I'm going to throw it to you.
So if you have used AI before, you will learn nothing new today. This is pretty basic and low level, but maybe there's some different programs. But I do a bit of research here in the architecture faculty about AI and its applications. A few people have been asking me lately about whether we're going to be using it in practice more and more. And I think we will be. Competition was just one in Melbourne entirely in AI. And they gave it up. They submitted it, didn't tell anyone, and then they admitted at the end that they'd won it all entirely with AI. And I think it's a bit like CAD when computer programming came in many years ago. There was a bit of reluctance, and then we took it on, and people sort of building it into their workflows. It's a bit more complicated than that. But I'll just quickly wanted to go over a few different ones, free ones specifically. And ones that I thought you could do pretty quickly, and a few of them I think blur the lines between generative AI and about the way we perceive it. A lot of the time I think we think about generative AI as only language prompts, so all of these are large language models. They're trained off what the words mean as images, and then they go into it. But so the first one I want to show you is just Photoshop Beta, to be precise. You all have the ability to download this with your UNSW Creative Cloud access. It isn't the actual Photoshop. So it's a newer, sort of updated, more test version of Photoshop. This is the landscape site from last year, for 4th year that we did. And so it's Newcastle Harbour. And essentially what I want to show you, the first, I guess this sort of blurs the line of what is AI. So you're going to use a tool called Generative Fill. You can select a part of the site. I can click the Generative Fill button, type in Speedboat, generate. Depending on your computer, this will take between 10 seconds and a couple of minutes. I have a very powerful computer, but a lot of programs open at the moment, so it takes a little bit longer than it should.
And you're on DALL-E?
No, this is Photoshop. So it's now put in a series of speedboats, it's doing the wake. The more memory I have running dedicated to this, the better results I can get, because I have a few things open there a bit average, but essentially you're getting speedboat, you're getting some wake, so it interprets it. It knows that it's on water. So in that sense, it's quite clever. You can keep generating and get more results. Before I did one where I put in a cruise ship. So if I go back, grab the lasso tool here, I can just select an area I want. Instead of going here, I can even do one out here. And say generative fill, cruise ship, hit enter. It'll think about what a cruise ship is, and think about what the background is, and do its best to come up with a way of interpreting that. Not super fascinating to watch it load. It's a live thing. Normally when I do this, I record it, but there's your speedboat, or maybe a cruise boat in this case. That's quite poignant. When I used to live in Newcastle, a big shipping tanker crashed into this beach called the Patra Bolsa. So there's a few different versions. You pick your favorite. If you don't like it, you generate more. So this is AI, and this is where noting down image prompts is weird because you just told it what you want. So it's not like in DALL-E or Midjourney where it's more specific on what you ask for things, you just tell it what you want. What I particularly like about this is you can go in and edit it then. So there's a layer mask there. So if there were parts of it that I wanted to get rid of, so I didn't like the back of it, I could sort of paint it away and edit it. So it's really easy to edit, really easy to augment things. If you have a shot of the site, you want to start adding in different ideas. What would it look like if there was a Ferris wheel here or big amphitheater? This is the first way I like to do that. So hopefully that's a quick introduction to, I think, the first most simple version of AI.
What was the toilet block?
Toilet in the water.
Yeah, anywhere on there. You know, something less spectacle.
You can do it. The problem is with all of these first ones is specificity. So that's what it thinks a generic cruise ship is.
Yeah.
It doesn't know anything about Nissan Murphy design toilet block or some sort of fancy one. It'd probably be bricks, like sort of big grey bricks. And scale is really important when you do that. You need a tighter image. That image is way too blurred out for it to get enough detail. But if you go back to that, one thing it does really well is it is smart. You can see it starting to pick up reflections in the water. So it's making that water. So if we turn that off, that's what it's generated as the AI. Bit of a wonky cruise ship, because at this distance it doesn't matter. Starting to get reflection, starting to get shadow. You can do it. It just kind of is a mode of playing around. But I probably wouldn't use this generative tool if you want something specific. But it is very easy. Another really vague one is NVIDIA Canvas. Again, this is free. They offer a beta mode of it. You need a fairly decent computer. If you don't run a GTX card and you run an RTX card, then you need to update your drivers manually. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. This is the dumbest form of AI. Essentially, invented for children to play around with AI, but it's really good for a base.
If you're in the computer labs here at school, would this be better than being on your own screen?
I don't know if they have this.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone here uses it. But you could probably ask them and they put it on. But you can do this, it just might be a bit slower. Essentially what it is, it's a painting tool. So I'm going to grab this. Excellent painting, I've got some grass. And then I'm going to go and get some trees, some forest stuff and put that over there. Like that. Then I'm going to grab some gravel and do this. Taking it really seriously. Put something up here. Coming in like that. Start to build that hill. If you don't like it, like let's say you've messed up like that in the sky, you can just paint it away. It's essentially like Microsoft Paint, but it transfers it into a smart image. Then there are all these stylistic things you can do with it. So you can change it to
choose eucalyptus?
No, but we'll get to how you do that in a second. And this is why the prompts don't work. What do you write a prompt for this? So that I think the way a lot of people think about AI is as a one language model input to another, whereas in reality what you do is you take them a lot further than that. So again, I might add some water here. So I get that. That doesn't look good, so I can undo it. And you can play around with that. Maybe I want more clouds. So I can add those in. So this is kind of a good base when you're thinking about adding things, or you think about relationship between different things. I'm then going to quickly export that as a Photoshop file. I won't do that because, again, no fun things to watch me do. But here's one I did earlier. So this is that same thing. I just painted in a bunch of different things. Not perfect, like that rock overhang doesn't look that good, but it's essentially I've created a bit of a landscape. And now I'm going to start to merge the last thing and this thing together. So what I want is to add a person in this water. So I'm going to go down to this layer, do the same thing I did before. Lasso tool to select it, and say person in new. Generate. One thing is when you're doing this, AI still sucks at people. That's how you can tell. If it's a person, their hands have little claws or their face have these gloves on them. We're getting better. If you use Midjourney, especially the premium version, you can do it. You can see that lady's face is pretty terrifying.
But you said back of, or like, can you silhouette them? Or?
You can. So this one's a bit better, and it's because they put a mask on her. Here's one I prepared earlier. There's this guy here. So facing away is always a lot better. You you that sense of scene. They've done really good at putting the reflection in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's 2 layers of AI going together.
And I have to, this is when I get to say my one fact that I was, because you've heard, and that is, we've said it before, and Sarah said, oh, I didn't know that. So there's a whole marketing thing, when you put the back of somebody's image in, you'll get 150 likes on some social media versus if you put the front. Because everyone goes, that could be me, because they're an anonymous person. Whereas the minute you turn them around and we see Siri Cruise, whatever Tom Cruise's daughter is, it sort of distorts it all. So you're always going to put the back of people, the back of children, just as a type.
Yes.
Ghost them in.
So now, a lot of you would have used ChatGPT maybe, or heard of ChatGPT. So if you have absolutely no ideas at all, I'm sure you all do. I've done it, so I'm so stupid, I wrote in, write 2-sentence description of an urban environment in Quebec's Australian bush. It wrote me a description, not perfect, we could change it. Then I went to a website called DALL-E, which is just ChatGPT, but it's image-based. It's the exact same model, but it's trained on what the words mean as a language output or image output. So I go here, pop it in that description, and these are the things that DALL-E generated for me. Patrick, can you give me a description of what your project is about?
Yes. I got that.
Okay. So note this down.
Okay, yeah, an urban waterway. Everyone can help out. An urban waterway incorporating bike path.
Yeah.
Pedestrian access. Eels. And
The eels will probably mess it up.
I know, well, let's see if it does. Eel habitat. Eel habitat and food trucks.
This may be a little bit more random than I was planning, but yeah, I know. I probably should have asked someone else.
Food truck in the back, on the background.
So you can type in whatever you want. Typically here, you just type in a description, and then the way I do it is I put a comma after what I've put, and then I tell it the style I want it to be, whether it's photorealistic or images. But these are the sort of things that just generate it.
Look, this eel is that is hilarious.
It's trying to do things. So this is really good for a first idea. So you could look at these and be like, here's 4 ideas of it. So these nouns work, how about this? There's a bounce through there, I don't like the first here. You can take things. If you like them, like let's say you think this is amazing. I don't know why, but let's see, you can go variations. And it will start to generate variations on that as a prompt. So rather than using words now, it's using the image as a prompt. And it's going to start to give you more versions of it. You can go through, start to get these things. Really, as a generative idea, it's pretty harsh. You could go through and change that language. You could start to sort of add softer words in. So children playing in the water or people canoeing through to add that sense of life. But so this is DALL-E. So I go back. This was one I did earlier. I said Australian landscape, densely planted, drainage canal with eucalyptus trees, early morning light shining through the trees, and then comma photo. So I want it to be photorealistic. If I wanted to, I could say painting or digital art, and it would look rendered or look like it was done in oil painting. So there's a lot of messing around you can do that way. Then, same thing. I went. Not sure which one it is. So I brought that into Photoshop, and then I started to ask it to show a kid jumping into the water. But because it's terrible at people, they're all horrifically sort of maimed, these children. That's probably the most sane one. This one's lost its face.
It's bad at faces, but it's fine.
The body starts to distort a little bit. Ears everywhere. So it's good for some things and not for others. And if you want to do people, you've got to learn Midjourney. If you want to learn Midjourney, the best time to do it is like 1 a.m. in the morning here, because it's the only time you can get on for free now. So I asked it to put some steps in, and you see it starts to generate these different ideas of sandstone steps. Some are feasible-ish, even if they're a bit weird in the site. And others are less so, like these sort of random seats here. Maybe you like some of them, maybe you don't. But again, it's this idea of quickly generate. What I really like, and what's come a long way in the last month, is how it maps the edges and starts to join them into the actual site. So again, as a quick idea generation, it's really good. or if you want to come with your tutor to say, show a few different options. In term 3, I'm running a class that's entirely AI, so no, you can't submit anything that isn't done in this way, and it's just going to be a new way of working, I think. I don't remember it. Oh, canoe, I got it to put a little canoe down by the water. It's a way of sort of augmenting it. This would be better if it was your photo at the site. You could start to put things in. The last one I'll show you, I'll show you 2 quickly. So the other thing that you can do on Gully, and again, this is the free one, you get 15 free goes of this a month. So I'm kind of limiting to what I do to show you. You can pay for more, but why bother? You can go upload any image. So I photoshopped a bit of Barangaroo and someone else's landscape from Australia. I don't know who they are, but I stole it. I'm going to crop it. You can go edit image. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and erase all of this. Using the eraser tool. And to me, this is where that idea that Patrick mentioned earlier, that you have to mention your prompts, get really tough, because there's all this process work that goes on in AI beyond just saying, I want an Australian landscape, or I want an urban environment. So I've deleted that. So I said, keep this, remember that, break that down into words and interpret what it is, and then use the words I'm going to use on the top, which will be,
so maybe it's note 3 key prompts you use.
yeah.
Make it wicked.
You can try to, just try to explain it, I think. Mix it around for you. So then it will try to merge those 2 ideas, the image and the prompt. Think a little bit.
Brilliant hybrids. Eel submarine, cat submarine, eel water fountain. Think of the fun you can have.
And then so you get something like that, where you start to merge other people's landscape. This is where plagiarism is going to get really hard to deal with in a couple of years, because you could just keep breaking this down and training it on different parts, and it will spit out something very similar that's completely original. Yeah. And so those are the really basic ones. Those 3 tools I use: NVIDIA Canvas, Photoshop Beta for generative fill, and DALL-E, which is free. This is also free, but much more intense. This is called Stable Diffusion. This is the type of one I use. Instead of using a cloud-based model for AI, it's done entirely on your computer. So unless your computer is a workstation, you can't use this essentially, or if you're happy to not use it for a couple of hours. But essentially it runs like this. You have to sort of go in and install it this way. If you know what this is, you can do it. If you want help, if you're interested in Stable Diffusion, I can help you. It does a lot of prompts. So these are ones I did before. And so these are just, I just said Australian landscape water body. And so it generates dozens of them relatively quickly. To give you different ideas, I started adding canoe, I started to do all these things, and it makes much more beautiful images, much better trained. What's really good about Stable Diffusion is you pick the model. So there are all these models online. So you can have a model that's entirely robot-based. So if you want to turn any image or any prompt into a robot, so you can have a picture of the bush and it will turn it into whatever it thinks it is as a robot. There are a lot of anime-style ones, or a lot of sort of like, if you want like famous soccer players. There's one based entirely framed on Cristiano Ronaldo, so everything looks like him. It's sort of ridiculous, but there are some nice ones. And then this thing called ControlNet, and I won't do it because it takes a while, but essentially what that does is I can take an image of all of you, and I do this in the staff meetings for architecture. I take a photo of them, I show it to them, and then I put us all in different scenarios. So I put us all in like a tiki bar in Shanghai or something. And it just learns those words, takes the base image, but it changes everything about it that's secondary. I like that stuff. Yeah. This is just, sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to inspire them. But essentially, those are the big tools. Again, these are all the 4 free ones. There are, you do this for 3 hours, and there are like 60 tools that you can use. But essentially, I would use those. Is that
Okay.
enough
Brilliant.
on the base?
That is great. Couple questions. Where do you think Vectorworks and all the rest of the suites will be in 18 months' time?
Don't use Vectorworks. I think the others will integrate it. I don't think Vectorworks will. I think it's too flat, too 2D based, but definitely all the BIM programs will. Revit's already looking at it. Grasshopper essentially is AI in this sense. You'll have to learn to use it.
Yeah.
It's not going to take anyone's job who's like flexible.
Yeah.
I think if it can take your job, you're not
Digital
very good at your job.
literacy.
Yeah. Digital agility.
Digital.
You say you're doing a course. Is that what's the objective of that? What are you trying to do?
We're looking at UNSCG goals and taking huge ideas and trying to sell them to the world. So instead of like taking in different prompts, sort of big, sexy renders and ideas,
Right.
like Elon Musk's Mars shot, where we're turning salt into this, but instead of getting into the detail, we're treating it really high level, and trying to solve the world through AI. Probably won't work.
Have you guys got any questions or comments?
Can I ask for a language vision?
Yeah.
Where can I find like the model for landscape? Is there any library and to have a
Do you have Stable Diffusion already?
I already installed it, but I don't know how to use it.
Okay, I can show you. So the way you've installed it on your C drive.
Yeah,
This is the one thing. And you've opened up the Iowa, like you've opened up this. Yeah.
Is it got a library we can show the model?
You have to download the model separately. So you have to find makers who make certain things based off that. So there are some landscape-based ones, but they're not Australian. They're very like European forest-style ones. If you Google Stable Diffusion best landscape models, it'll come up.
Is that like how SketchUp started?
No, it's not. It's a language model. So it's a document with 1 billion words in it, and it tells you what word corresponds to an image. There's only like a couple of people in the world who really make good ones, but they train these language models on huge servers. I think it started mainly in the porn industry, people making naked images of people, but then people realized you could use it for normal things. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So just one last comment, and thank you very much. I think it's really interesting, and I started teaching again first time in a long time. It was like walking in a different world. I really encourage you to engage with this, but engage critically. One of the things I thought just in that demonstration there is when you put up the Australian landscape and it said add steps. It's like, wow, okay, let's critique that as a way of putting steps in, like material use, size of steps, dimensions, step width. Okay, because you can see that there's lots of faults in that. But there was also, and then you said, oh, there's some practical ideas. And there was one, it's like, actually, no, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Having like a cantilevered sort of internet benches kind of jutting out would be kind of fun. So one of the things about AI is that it doesn't kind of prescribe bigger norms other than the large language model that is set, but the boundaries under which it understands the world is completely different to the boundaries that we do. So this is where I think there's lots of benefits, but be really like critically look at it and going, I could use this, and as you quite right point out, to generate an idea, but then to take it to the next level yourself, how do you come back into that space and use it yourself? So I was really thrilled with practical, so proactive, use these. You guys need to be good at this stuff. But I guess, coming back to your research, the risk is going to be that you uncritically accept an AI image. Okay? So when you're not critical of what you're accepting, if it's generated an image and put in your thing, you think that's cool, and we come and going, okay, we get it's AI, you said it's AI. So what is it about this image that tells us about yours? It's like, oh, it's good. It's not gonna work. It's like whenever we ask precedents for projects and you put a beautiful shot of New York High Line, it's like, why did you put it in there? So it's like, oh, it's probably one of the best examples in design that I've seen software facilitate critical thinking. Think of it that way.
One thing I explain to people is that it's an infinitely knowledgeable, incredibly talented idiot that works with you. it can do anything, but it doesn't know whether it's good or bad. And it's getting worse because it's training itself off itself. So it's run out of all content that ever existed online. It already knows it all. So now it's learning from itself and getting worse. So it needs people to critically feed back in what's good. And if you can't do that, then it's the same as just plagiarizing, ripping things off and not knowing, or putting cherry blossom trees in new castles. It's going to be a skill on how to use it.
So it's like a Dunning-Kruger paradox.
Yeah, exactly.
But everyone will be doing it. They already are. And you should, no one should ever be short of an idea ever again. I'm stuck. It does feel like you can provoke an idea.
It's just a collaborator in the room, but you're smarter than it. But if it can replace you, you're very replaceable already.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Ben.
How are you, Ben?
Amazing as always. We've got mock presentations next week. We will end classes now. Make sure we keep these big prints and either take them home or put them in the master's room.